My name is Katya Demina. I am the co-founder along with Dimitri Damascus. And I would like to take a second to thank all of our wonderful sponsors again. Thank you to Constellation Group. Thank you Contempo Space. Thank you MG Developer, One Sotheby's, Benesco, Zucca, and 11 Vodka. So Profile Miami is a real estate and lifestyle news publication and media company. We have a website where we publish news. We have an email newsletter, Instagram. So if you scan this QR code, please follow us and stay abreast of all the new real estate events and news that we have coming up. And now I would like to introduce our Legends panel with some of Miami's finest. I don't think they need an introduction, but here they are.
Hey guys, so this is a very special panel today here. Obviously these three are legends of Miami real estate, but Carlos was actually one of the first developers to find Profile way back 6-7 years ago. He was building Hyde Midtown, Paraiso, SLS, quite a few projects, and I was a broker. He was inviting me for Profile on construction tours, and it became one of the catalysts. Bernardo, I didn't meet until more recently, but I've been covering the Arquitectonica projects for many, many years. In the beginning with Profile, obviously there's lots of copyrights and stuff, so thankfully Arquitectonica didn't come up after us for any cease and desist or something, so he's up here. And Edgardo at Fortune was one of the first developers we ever did an event with. We did the Ritz-Carlton Sunny Isles Beach, and that was one of the events that kicked off Profile. So we get better every time, and we appreciate them coming up here and speaking with us. So let's start with Carlos and go down the line. Just give us a little bit of your background and how you ended up in Miami and in Miami real estate.
First of all, I'm not a legend. To be a legend, you have to be at least 60 years old, and I am not 60, so I am not a legend.
Let's see your driver license.
Yeah. I am not a legend. I am not a legend, although my hair may look like the hair of a legend compared, for example, with Edgardo's, but, you know, I am not a legend. So my story is, you know, it's a little bit I think it's very interesting. You know, I came here to the US in 2001 to do a master's at MIT. And then I got hired by Roberto Rocha, who was working with George Perez at that time, and started as an assistant project manager at Related, doing rental jobs in unknown locations like Tamarack, for example. You know, it's like, you know. And then we rode the wave of the condo development with Related. 2008 happened in the middle, and half of Related senior guys were all gone. And then George looked at me and said, well, you know, you're the only guy left, you know, so I guess you're the president of the condo division, you know. I said, okay, so let's start, you know. And we started again, working Saturdays, Sundays with this guy here next door, you know, calling him, drawing the first condo buildings, my Brickell, Brickell Heights, SLS, all the Paraisos and all the things that you all know. So we had a good ride with Related, and then in 2022, I think, yeah, I left and I started my own company. And here I am, you know, and I always say, you know, I'm super grateful to George. George was the guy who actually sponsored my visa in the US. You know, for most of us that are not Americans and that we come to this country and there are so many opportunities, you know, that's something that, of course, on top of learning not only from him, but learning particularly from these two guys here on the right, you know. One who is the master of design for all the developers. You know, he's like the doctor, like the emergency doctor. You know, we call Bernardo when we have a problem, and Bernardo, with whiteout on his hands, you know, fixes everything. We were in the middle of selling units, and suddenly all the units change, and you know, and did that. And of course, you know, a guy like Edgardo that managed most of our sales when we were back at Related. So they're, for me, they're idols. You know, they're not legends. They're guys that I look up to, and I always use their advice, particularly when I started on my own, you know, used their advice, and they're guys that know a lot more than me.
Bernardo, how do you end up in Miami here?
I grew up in Peru. And I came to college in the United States. I studied in Europe also. And I went to schools with pedigree that you thought you could get a job immediately. And instead there was a recession. People don't know recessions. They talk recession. No, it was 21% inflation, 18% interest. I mean, I couldn't find, I don't care, I went to Harvard and all this. Made no difference. When there's a recession, it doesn't matter where you. It's I got a job teaching at the University of Miami, and that's how I came here. And but soon after, I started the firm with my wife, who's also an architect, and a couple of friends, and we landed a little project, a little house, and a 6-story building. Opened an office, a little office. And as soon as we opened, we started to get other work by very nice people who trusted us, even though we were 24. And, so we've been practicing architecture since first in Miami and then expanded across the United States and the world. But this is still our hometown where we started. I only design, I'm just an architect. And things these guys do, which are bigger and better. You know? But our job is to visualize the program and convert it, translate it. We're translators of words. They'll tell us to drawings and buildings. And but it's the biggest, greatest thing for an architect, because you see the result of your sketch one day. People are walking inside and living in it. So it is thanks to the developers, because if there isn't somebody who wants to build your ideas, it's just paper.
So you were 24 when you started designing in Miami?
Yeah, actually 23.
23,
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm talking 24 the first high rise, you know? I mean, I'm talking 40 stories.
Yeah, I have the book Miami Architecture in the 80s. They've got all your,
Yeah,
all
we
your
started
stuff
very
in there.
early because by circumstance, we had some nice people who trusted us.
Very nice. And Edgardo, what's your story?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me, and it's great to be with these two guys to my left, because they're not only incredible professionals but great friends. And I had a similar story to both of them. Pretty much, I came here to study, supposedly for 3 months to study English, and I always say that they're still waiting for me to come back, because I loved it so much that I said, hey, I'd rather live here with $1,000 than in Argentina with 10,000, because the next day the 10,000 becomes 100 or something, because the situation and the volatility was very significant. So I had to figure out, in addition to studying, I enrolled in the University of Miami for my MBA, but I wanted to stay, so I had to figure out what to do. And I realized that even though Latin Americans were coming and people were servicing from the point of view of giving them, helping them to sell and to buy, then nobody was really paying attention to what they needed, which was a full service of helping them to manage the units and helping them to resolve any problems at the time. So even though it was very little money on that, they became your clients for life after you did that. So, and rather than waiting for them to come, I teamed up with a mortgage broker and a lawyer, and we went down to the different major cities in Latin America, originally in Argentina because I was from there, but then we kept going and sort of teaching them that how easy it was to buy real estate in Miami. And then from there, word got out that we had a great network in Latin America, so we started representing developers on the sales of their projects, and realized quickly that developers, some of them are very smart and listen to the market, and some of them think that they know exactly what to do, and they don't listen to the market. They don't listen to Bernardo, and they don't listen to a guy like Carlos, and they do what they think is right. And so we said with my wife, why are we fighting with these people that don't know what they're doing? Let's do it ourselves and try to do it better. And that's why we started the development division 20 years ago, and we were very lucky to be in the right place at the right time.
So in this panel, we want to hear some stories. Can you guys, you all have your own companies. You started them at all different times and periods. What was the reasons that you guys started your own companies in this hyper-competitive world? And if you do start your own company, how do you earn the trust of big players or even just your first client to get the building blocks to build on? Whoever wants to start, yeah.
I mean, I think it takes obviously personality of an entrepreneurship, and you try to figure out what's the need in the market, and understand if you can do it better or try to provide something that is not being provided. And of course, when you're young and don't have much to risk, it's relatively easy to start a company. And again, if you find a niche and more importantly than anything, you love what you do and you do it with a passion, I think that as Carlos and Bernardo were saying, this is a land of opportunity. And especially in the 80s when we came in, certainly the competition was a little bit less aggressive than it is today. Today it's a lot more difficult to start something because there's really very, very knowledgeable and hardworking people that are doing it for many years, but it's basically the same fundamentals. If you love what you're doing and really work hard and pay attention to what you're doing and do something that it's a little beyond what everybody else is doing, you're bound to be successful because the market here is really amazing.
I agree with that line of opportunity thing, because we really didn't have work, but we ventured and started, rented a space and put a deposit of $600. And on the second floor where our office is now, there used to be a strip center, which we eventually demolished and built the whole thing. But it was, for the first month, it's like totally, there is luck in life, you know? We landed our contract for $21,000. So we never put more. It is until this date. The office is now 800 architects, is in 54 countries that we built, but we never did more of that. But it's because, you know, in his case, he needs to use the words and knowledge of the market and understand in depth what are the demands of the marketplace, right? And where the movement is going. In our case, we have it easier. I just have to do a sketch that somebody likes. Just, you know, and we were lucky. Like the year after that, we did a sketch and landed a 22-story building, and the year after, a 42-story building. And we were in our mid-20s, you know, because the pencil and the ideas that translate from the image and the arrangement, it speaks a lot of words without saying the words, right? And it's, so in our field, if you have a good idea and you can quickly react to the conversation, you can be the translator. And that's what we did, and that's how the firm grew to what it is today.
But the difference between you and some others that I had the pleasure of working is that you don't give up with the first sketch, and you find the right sketch to both please the market and please the developer. I mean, I honestly, not because you're here, but your talent to modify the same space into something that makes sense and that you understand both the desire of the developer and and the wants and needs of the buyer, it's really remarkable. And but because you personally grabbed, I mean, that's why you have the whiteout. You personally grab the pencil and do it yourself, and are not satisfied until it's really perfect. That's what makes the difference.
Well, but actually, we depend on the words of these two guys. You know, no, we depend on the market input. You know, we depend on the insight. And sometimes, we're in touch with the developer, but not often with the eventual users. They're the ones who are feeding us the information of what the market is sensing is the next step. Now, we have as architects the advantage, and they do too, that we're generally the first phone call, right? So generally, we are listening to what's coming up, what's next. Way before the building is built, we are listening to these guys, and they have the pulse of where things are moving. And that's a pretty important feeder for us to be able to come up, and they can change their mind, and we can change our mind too, you know? Yes. No, because the markets shift, and they could tell us, no, you know, things are happening, going the other way, and we have to quickly also adapt to that feedback. You know, this is a business of being quick.
Yeah, and I think, you know, for me, the most critical thing in business in general, you know, is velocity and how people respond, you know. I used to tell that to all the guys related, you know, if at night you finish that day and you didn't answer all your emails, you know, and if you ignored someone, because answering sometimes may as well be, hey, I'm going to study this, I'm getting back to you tomorrow or the day after. But the follow-up and answering, you know, those are the things that I think are the most important in terms of a culture of work, you know. And that's, for example, Bernardo. You know, Bernardo is like, Bernardo, where are you? I'm in London. I'm taking a plane now, but I know what you want. I'm taking the tracing paper and I'm going to draw it. You know, thank God they got me the upgrade in business, so I have more space and I will be able. I saw where you wanted to put the toilet, and I'm thinking that maybe the sink has to go on the other side. You know, that's, and then you think, you're on the phone, it's like, wow, this is a guy who runs 800 architects and 57 offices around the world.
No, 11. I said 57 countries we built.
Okay, you know, like, let me sell. You know, we are selling. You know, we are selling here.
Always exaggerating here, but that's the Argentinian trait.
We are selling. We're developers. You know, they're all waterfront, right? All the offices. They all see all the offices see the water from everywhere.
Whatever you want to sell.
Even from everywhere. Coral Gables, we have.
All the offices of Bernardo see the water, you know. So
they're Argentinian. You see, they exaggerate, including the amount of hair they carry.
Yeah, jealous. He's jealous.
Almost none. You know?
Peruvian jealous guy, you know. So no, but really,
modest, yeah.
But the reality is that answering, you know, and doing follow-up and pushing people and pushing the guys that work for you also to create that same culture of, hey, people are waiting for you to respond. You know, if you're a broker and somebody puts an offer and, you know, it takes time and then the buyer goes to another project. Or if you're finalizing a change order and you have a sub that is waiting for you to tell him how much you're going to pay him, and you think that by delaying that, you're creating a situation where you're going to negotiate better. No, you know, just respond to people. People are there, and we're all pushing this in this community, particularly in the real estate community. You know, we're all pushing against time. Time is our biggest unknown, where our risk is. The future is risk for us developers. You know, we would love to sell a building, build it the same day, close all the units in the same day, and be done. You know, but the reality is that it takes time, and time is risk, and not answering delays things, and that delay is risk. For all of us, that equates to risk. You know, the same risk of interest rates going up or going down, the same risk of the market slowing for whatever reason, you know. somebody stops the border and we don't get plumbers or we don't get drywall guys. All those things can happen. A hurricane can come. And all that happens in time. And time equals risk.
So you guys are all experts in luxury condo. Can we talk about this synergy between design and development that we've been discussing and how we keep pushing the envelope forward in Miami? The new buildings are so much more higher quality today for today's market than they were 10, 15 years ago, and we have the new buyer. How do we continue to push the envelope forward in design while still being financially feasible in development while we're reaching these new higher end buyers' desires as they move into Miami?
And at Fortune, we're firm believers that the quality of design improves the quality of life. If you design something that's not only aesthetically pleasing, but that really works well, it really allows for people to live better. A great example is, for instance, what Bernardo did with us at the Ritz-Carlton in Sunny Isles, where sinking the parking underground and being able to connect the pool and the restaurant and all the amenities directly at the same level as the beach and the ocean allows for a quality of lifestyle that is significantly different than if you have a pedestal and you have to come down 3 flights of stairs or an elevator to go to your beach or to your pool. So it really, and not necessarily design needs to be ostentatious or really very visually significant, but really quality and understanding, again, what the needs and wants of people are in order to deliver that. And not only on the design phase, but also on the service and operational phase eventually when they're living there. And that's why we're teaming up with hospitality brands like Ritz-Carlton or St. Regis, because they provide the next step. When after the building is finished, somebody needs to run it, and somebody needs to really know what they're doing and provide the services that those sophisticated buyers want in order to really make the lifestyle different and improve their lifestyle the way they do. But I'm a lot happier. The other day a month ago, it was Ana Cristina's birthday, and we went to St. Moritz for her birthday, and we're sitting at the lobby of the hotel, and the guy he was looking at us, and he comes to us and he says, "You don't know me, but I bought 2505 at the Ritz-Carlton in Sunny Isles. And you have no idea how happy I am every time I go with my family. I live in Mexico, but I try to go every time to the Ritz because we enjoyed that lifestyle so much. And that makes me a lot happier than if somebody comes and says, oh, I bought it at X and I sold it at X and make so much money. I mean, improving the people's life and having the ability to have them enjoy them with their families, there is no better satisfaction than that, in my opinion.
The fact is that you can never underestimate the consumer, the public, and even more so nowadays. I'm saying you have to assume that the eventual occupant of the building, and I'm including other things we do like office buildings or stadiums or whatever, the customer is very informed. And maybe in the earlier days of maybe my practice, communication was through magazines, so forth, and maybe the public was very trusting to some extent, and a good developer didn't take advantage of that and did a good job, and some took advantage of the lack of knowledge of the buyer, I guess, But and that including, I don't mean buyer only, the occupant of buildings of any kind. And today, through social media and internet and all that, the customer is very informed. I mean, they know a lot. They can comparison shop very easily. They can look at what's out there. And there's an interest in design. I mean, the world wasn't as interested in design as they are nowadays. Everybody follows what the trends are and what's new. And therefore, you have to be ahead of the curve. You have to be always forward and not nice to say, but leave others behind you, because who were not like really eager to see what the trends are. Of course, for us, these guys are super important because they have the pulse and they hear people. And we also try to hear. We're always just asking what's happening in the sales, what people are commenting, what's out there, because people are so well informed. And that is a huge factor. And he's absolutely right. And both of them, Carlos, for example, or Edgardo, they understand that we can create image of a building, the poster that appears in the article or in the internet, and people see it and they get hooked. I gotta find out what that building is. But the reality is that they close the deal with their finger going through the floor plan. Actually, the building has to be also very functional. They are very picky, guys. I mean, on the more so even on the layout, because they know that that's where you could lose the sale, right?
Yeah, or either that or the reputation, because again, it's a lot easier to sell the dream, and the floor plan is hard for many people to visualize it. But eventually, it has to work, and we're firm believers of designing from the inside out. I mean, the building could look beautiful, but if the units are really a mess or they're not functional, people are not going to be happy living there. So it's hugely important, and we dedicate a lot of time trying to perfect that, because it's what they live eventually.
And I think also that we, as Bernardo said, we are trying to read the pulse of what's happening and how the market and the clients are changing. And the reality is that post-COVID, Miami has seen clients that we've never seen before. The level of sophistication that these new buyers come, the wealth that they bring, what they are looking for is completely different than what we had pre-COVID, Just as an example, and I always tell this example because it's sort of, for me, it's very graphic. I'm a member of a little tennis club in Red Road that's called Coral Oaks. And it's a small tennis club, 12 tennis courts. It's a private club. And during COVID, all these guys from New York started showing up, and they started showing up, and they loved it so much, they started buying houses in Snapper Creek, they started buying houses in Coco Plum, all these places, housing started ballooning, prices started ballooning, and it's the first time in my life that I see women coming to play tennis with a driver, It's like, and again, that transformation translated into St. Regis Tower in Brickell with Una Tower, the Ritz-Carlton that Edgardo was talking about, because those clients came, suddenly we all realized, what, we don't need to do anymore 1,800 square foot two-bedroom units, we need to do 3,200 square foot two-bedroom units. It's a lot riskier for the developer to take that jump. But you take that jump once you know that those guys are here. And the reality is that Miami has changed, and has changed completely, and will continue changing, because the guys from Citadel are not in Miami still. The 830 Brickell, where they leased 60,000 square feet of office space, is still not finished. So they're not here. And when people tell me, do prices can still continue going up? I say, Miami, the city of Miami is a city of 500,000 people. It's smaller than Mar del Plata, for those who know Argentina, which is like a beachy town in Mar del Plata. There are how many good homes? 10,000 good homes? Real good homes and real good condos? When these guys come, 50,000 square feet of office, Bernardo can tell you better than me, but it's 3 people per 1,000. So that's 15,000 people only coming to work to that office. Of course, they are not all going to be buying homes of 30 million or selling their kids to Gulliver or Ransom. But the reality is that Miami is going to see an influx of money and of wealth that we are not prepared for it. We are not prepared. We don't have enough good homes. We don't have enough good schools. We don't have enough good transportation. We don't have enough of the good stuff that these guys are going to be looking in Miami. So the potential of Miami is amazing. I think it's amazing, you know, in terms of the demand that is going to arrive when all these companies finally end up settling here. So that's what we do all the time. You know, I was talking the other day with a broker, and she was telling me, you know, I just put under contract a unit, a house in Coco Plum, but the condition of the buyer was that his kid could get into ransom as a condition to close. So I am going now to ransom, you know, to lobby for this kid from New York to get into ransom. You know?
And pushing over somebody from Miami.
Pushing over somebody from Miami. But what I'm saying, no, but what I'm saying is that, you know, and we've had this discussion, for example, with Edgardo in some jobs, you know, where we say, hey, this is an ideal place for a top-notch school. You know, somebody that finds a good place for an amazing school, you know, look at what's happening with Gulliver and Ken Griffin and the parking lot that he just funded. You know, it's crazy, you know, that we don't have more of the good stuff that these guys are looking for to really make Miami grow.
Well, I can give you some insight on that because my office has a practice of doing
47 offices.
No, yeah, we do private schools, you know, and we have a division that does the nice private schools, and all over, not just here, New York, California, Europe, you know, everywhere, including here. And yes, I do hear about companies that want to move here, but there's no schools for the kids, and that's going to be an obstacle. But the obstacle is that you can't get the land anywhere to build a school because the land is too expensive, or the neighbors oppose it, and they say too much traffic. We are doing a private school right now in a neighborhood, not to bring up here, that finally we got it approved. We had neighbors wanting to know the decibels of the whistle of the coach in the basketball game. It was, well, under that circumstance, I mean, the highest prices are in Coconut Grove because they're great schools. And I live there, and my kids went to Ransom, and I put up with the traffic. Schools is part of life. It's like saying, I don't want a hospital. You know, you have to need a hospital. You know, I don't want a fire station. There's going to be a noise of the fire truck, but what do you do without an emergency call, you know? So, but it has been a problem, the inability to get schools approved in neighborhoods that want schools, in other words, but somewhere else, you know, not in my neighborhood. And that has been an obstacle everywhere across Southeast Florida. And Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach, everywhere. And they're all shorter schools, but the neighbors will not permit them to happen. And that has stopped multiple schools, including one that we're doing in Miami. And they complained it was 3 stories, and they could only do 2 stories, and therefore the school is not a complete school. It is, so that is a real problem of service to society kind of thing. You know, that
I don't know if you've seen.
It's only myself and nothing else. You know?
I don't know if you've seen what Steve Ross is doing in Palm Beach. You know, he did a fundraiser last week, you know, to bring Vanderbilt, the University of Vanderbilt, which, by the way, is the first university in the U.S. that's charging $100,000 tuition. I don't know if you heard. So he raised between people in Palm Beach $200 million to help the university come to Palm Beach. Yeah. So what I'm saying is he understands that, hey, that's what I need to bring the tenants to my office buildings. Because the tenants, you know.
You can't bring the tenants without the schools.
Without the schools. Yeah. So the CEO of BlackRock, you know, who is a guy of 45 years old, has kids that want to think where they're going to go to college. So I solve his life if I tell his wife that they're going to go to college in Palm Beach and they're going to go to a great university. So that way of looking at business, you know, as a general thing is something that Miami still lacks. Guys like Ross and stuff like that do it in Palm Beach and do it with some opposition, you know, it's not easy, but they do it. And that vision of how to grow a city and make the city better is what we need more in Miami.
I mean, in other locations, it's been actually that is, particularly in other countries, the school, people will do anything for a school to get a good quality school nearby. And that the kids can walk to school, bike to school, not have to commute long. But it's become very difficult here to get those approvals, those permits, and those, and that could eventually hurt us in terms of the marketplace. I think it is one of those things that could be a problem.
Yeah, one great example of that is what Armando Codina did in Doral. That area of Doral was dead. Nobody wanted to live there. He put the great public school and had the buyers of their condominiums have the first choice of being able to be accepted at that school, and it turned the whole area into a great success. So it's doable. It's similar to what Lefrak and Jackie Sofer are trying to do in Solomia. I mean, there are a number of examples that could work very well. And yes, obviously it has some inconveniences, but it's such a need. The same thing with affordable housing to some extent. I mean, the Live Local Act that it's allowing to do in commercial properties, residential of higher intensity and density. It's a huge component if we want to continue the momentum that Miami has, because if people cannot send the kids to school, or the lower level employees don't have a place to live, or they have to live an hour away from their job, it's not going to be sustainable.
So a few more questions, and we'll head into the cocktail hour. But who are some of your guys' idols that you looked up to and today still look up to?
Messi.
Messy.
No, I looked up to George. I really, he took me under his wing, and I think, that's a guy that has transformed and has pushed development and has pushed all of us, to work more, to work faster, to create, and he has been an incredible marketer for Miami. He's been a guy that jumps on a plane and goes to Turkey to sell Miami, jumps to Argentina. He's Argentinian in Argentina. He's Colombian in Colombia, and he sells Miami, and that's the type of leadership that I think Miami will later on recognize, as a guy who has really sort of spearheaded all the things and all the transformation that we see of the city.
And he's not a newcomer. He's been here from scratch, from zero. And he actually...
I was referring to George Merrick, of course.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
We're in Coral Gables. Alirio told me to say some good things about Coral Gables, so George Merrick. Of course, George Merrick.
Yeah. He was... Hey, he was the original one.
He was the original George.
The original George, yes. No, actually, he promoted as well. No, but I agree. He's not just arriving and saying, I know better than anybody else. Like we know, he's been around. But there are many things that help the image of the city, including Messi. I mean, including what looks like... it's just a soccer team, It is all of it contributes.
Of course.
All those little bits and pieces. I'm working on that stadium, so I'm super excited. I like soccer, so.
For tickets, go talk to Bernardo.
Yeah. Should I never said anything? Yeah.
So what is the most Miami story that you guys have for a real estate deal, or the most, I guess you would say, unorthodox deal that you've worked on that you'd be happy to share?
We'll tell you in private, but I mean...
All good. Any questions?
Actually, we get an unorthodox request every day. I mean, the most unorthodox is the one of today, but there will be one tomorrow. There's people are getting out there. It's not exactly the word creative. It's like sort of out there, And we do. Well, architects, we hear all kinds of stuff, that people have in their minds, and sometimes, particularly when they're not from here, and we have to, like they're from here, they understand. You know, sometimes some of these newcomers think they know more and they can do things that you can't do here, you know? Doesn't it happen to you?
Of course, all the time.
Yeah,
You know?
actually, I sort of have a funny story because when, like a year and a half ago, we bought the remaining inventory of the city center units, and 100 units, and my son, which at the time was 18 years old, my older son Andres, I took him to see the units, and he loved them and stuff. And then coming back, he was reading an article that the Tower 11 was launching the second tower of sales, and I said to him, Andres, if I had to give you one apartment where you would live, where would you pick? I mean, city center, would just where you go all the time and you go to restaurants and the movies and this and that, or would you like 11? I was 100% sure he was going to say city center. He says,
You don't know hormones, Edgardo.
And he said, Papi, of course 11. I mean, we have everything there. I mean, so you have to, that teaches you have to look at what the target audience is, and then you design for that.
That'll be a nice college graduation present, huh?
Believe me, it's not for me. I mean,
More than a car.
he can buy it on his own when he.
Hey, Edgardo, tell him it's better to rent.
You could do the Pagani Tower with matching car, too.
Yes. That'll be next.
Last question to wrap this up. So you guys all are not from America, moved to Miami, started your own companies, but now have all taken your brands global and have done buildings not in the US. Can you discuss a little bit about, as Miami-based developers, how that feels to be taking our brands and going, to other countries?
It feels horrible. I mean, well, I mean, I told my people that if I ever bring another Latin American project and I want to develop, to shoot me before they let me do it. But not because, I mean, I'm of course Argentinian and I love to do things there, and we had a wonderful project in Paraguay with 3 towers that when I go to Paraguay, I'm standing, we did a lot of promotion on our buildings, so I'm standing in the immigration line, and a lady comes and says, "Oh, you did the most beautiful project," and I take a picture, and I'm checking into the hotel, and people want to take a picture with me, but I still said that I'm very famous in Paraguay, but I haven't taken $1 out of there yet, because unfortunately, in these projects that we do, you take 3, 4, 5 years to do it, and typically, at least in Latin America, you start with a set of rules, and before you finish, the rules change, the exchange rate change, the government change, and the tax situation change. So it's really very, very difficult to do business somewhere else. Certainly, in our next ventures, if we don't do it in South Florida, will be more either in other places of Florida or the U.S. But it's really hard to do business outside of the country, especially if you're investing your money or other people's money as equity, because it's very difficult to forecast what is going to happen in the future.
Aren't you building a Mandarin Oriental in Spain?
No, from the sales point of view, I'll sell anything. I mean,
selling that.
Yeah.
I thought you were building that one too.
I do have to say that, I mean, I do practice in all these other places. And if I had to find a thread of what are the most successful projects, they're always something that is facing water. It's amazing. We did a luxury tower in Hong Kong with an amazing view of Hong Kong Harbor. Singapore, the one on the water is the one. The one in, we're doing these 2 towers in Monaco that has a view of the water, that's it. Greece, whatever if I can do a line of the most successful ones, San Francisco, on the view of that.
Remember, we're trying to help Alidio. Please, we're trying to help him. We came here to help him. Come on. It's Coral Gables.
Whoops. Well, there's
the trees, the one that look at the trees also. The trees.
There's Gables Estates. No, no, it's amazing that actually the, for whatever reason, everywhere, if you look at the markets that are thriving, at least in our practice, is the entire Mediterranean coast. Unbelievable. Southern France, Monaco, Italy, all the way to Greece, Turkey, everywhere is amazing. Or for that matter, Dubai, or right
No,
on the Gulf, you know?
you said the
It's-
water, but also the weather, and we have both.
Well, that comes together. Actually, you're right.
It's
It
not a
becomes-
project in Norway,
No, exactly. I mean,
or
terms
in
of-
Africa, in
I mean,
you know,
affluence
Namibia.
moves to comfort and weather, view, serenity, and all that contributes to a higher standard of living, not only, I mean, physical and mental. I think it's amazing. I mean, because we follow that thread in our practice, even in Brazil, whatever, Florianopolis, whatever, you know, it's unbelievable. It's we've noticed that there's a trending in that direction worldwide, in all continents, going to resort-like urban living.
Yeah, we did projects in Brazil, in Mexico, in Argentina. You know, Brazil, for example, was an example. You know, we went to Brazil when the real was 1-to-1, you know, and we convinced Starwood to invest $100 million in real estate in Brazil. The real went to 4-to-1. So, and we sold out the project at an incredible price in reais. You know, then our profits got divided by 4. So it was terrible, you know. And those are jobs, those are countries that you can do the most amazing design. The building came out amazing, beautiful. It's the nicest building in Sao Paulo. And still, like Edgardo says, you know, we didn't make any money, you know. And I can tell you horror stories like that in Argentina, in Mexico, you know. There are, for us, the future equals risk. And if you add to all those risks that we have here in the US, currency risk and political risk, you know, then stay here, you know.
We can open it up to 1 or 2 questions.
Hi, just a question for Edgardo. You know, you have obviously made the transition not just from brokerage, but also to development. And I know, I'm sure there's a lot of brokers in the room that are thinking about this, saying, how do I do that? So my question to you is, what was your journey like on the transition there?
It was a very natural progression, as I was saying before. First working with some of the best developers, including George Perez and Swire and all of those, and learning from those experiences, and then realizing that we have a tool that almost nobody has, which is the sales, not only the sales force, but the information that the sales force gives you, which allows you to really understand the market and build and develop for what the market wants. Of course, it takes a real progression to be able to do that, and unfortunately for the people just starting as developers, it's very difficult today to do a development of a small scale and be successful at it, because it almost takes the same time and the same effort to do something small that it does something big, and you're competing with big developers that do a lot of marketing, do great sales centers, do great things to be able to entice the customer to buy it. So I would think that if you want to transition into development, find a niche that you can contribute some value to it, and team up with an experienced developer or somebody that can help you get your first deals done and your feet wet, because it's a challenging environment out there today, especially with the cost of construction and the interest rates and the cost of insurance. So the whole sum of factors is not an easy transition, but if you do it either as a single family home or a small project, and then you learn the ropes, and that may be the better way to go.
I think it's very important as a broker, you know, you're very important to us, the developers, because you bring us land, you know, and sometimes minor things as contributing your commission as equity into a deal and being able to sit around the table and see how the developers do it versus starting and thinking that you can lift up a project of this scale on your own. It's better to sometimes partner as a minority partner with developers and learn. You know, there are a lot of guys that have done that with us, you know, with Related over time, and later on became developers on their own. But it takes time, you know, to learn the ropes of development and to understand the risks, particularly when it comes to financing and signing guarantees on loans and signing GMPs. It's not an easy task. So I always say it's better to take a small bite of that risk with a developer and learn, and then continue to grow on your own later on.
On the development side, we are not. No, but actually, on the development side, the only thing we do, because it's part of our generational business, is we develop hotels, and that's all we do. We'll actually
You know, we've told, for example, Bernardo, hey, I don't know, he gives us a project and he says, hey, I'm going to charge $1 million to design this job. You know, I tell him, hey, contribute it as equity. No. I see what you guys go through. No. Just pay me and I'm happy, you know, bye-bye.
Yeah. Well, but we would do a hotel in the right site.
Exactly, we'll do a hotel. So find him a hotel site and partner with Bernardo.
Like we did the Mr. C Hotel in Coconut Grove, you know, a boutique hotel, you know. That's what we like to do, and we do it anywhere on the water. Yeah. Anywhere in the world.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause to our panelists, please.